sorry about that. I had a little camera trouble for a second, I thought. Well, greetings. I was going to make this talk today on being and thing and the magic number 108 and how difficult it can be to talk about being while being a thing. And I guess I'll just let the conversation go because I never really know how to introduce it. It just has to flow, I guess. But I was thinking of that a lot recently, how we don't really find contentment until we are, as it's been said and echoed for a long time on the earth, but when we are continually identifying ourselves with thing and temporary passing things. As long as we are under the notion that we are something and not eternal being and of the isness and we are the isness, then we are acting in a mode of false identity and are going to continue being never truly satisfied. I was looking at lots of thoughts and wisdoms from the Eastern schools recently. I was reading a nice book that was talking about the old Chinese sages, and they were some of the most humble of all mystics in the world. Certainly were in the past, and they were having a good laugh, realizing that how can you talk about eternal being and reduce it to words, or it's like you could have a style of language or a flavor of culture, but that would not do it justice. And it's like we have two minds. We have the empirical mind that thinks and talks and has its own self-dialogue and monologue even, and then we share and express to others who are also part of the great self, but we're acting as little selves. So we're trying to use a smaller version of self to talk about big self, and we can't really do it justice. Because words themselves don't. How could you talk about eternal being as a thing? It would be filtered and it would never be perfect. I was looking at the number 108 as it had been popping up everywhere to me, and I was looking at the meaning of it. Meaning to say that, well, according to those sources, but the universe is one, and all in it one, having one prime source of being, and it is no thing. Being itself, the great isness, can't be defined as one singular thing at all, so it's no thing. And the number 8, when you turn it that way, the eternal infinity dance. And so it's an eternal interaction between being and thing. And that's all that this universe is. And thing cannot try to describe being, because by doing so, it's always doing so under the impression of a false identity. And to speak on its behalf as a thing, you can never really perfectly describe it. We could say the word and give honor, but we can't really describe it. It's quite a fun riddle and mystery. Now, it's been said and echoed for a long time that, well, as an eternal, I don't know, isness itself, that the way of being happy and finding true identity is the way of freedom. And we become harmless when we start to be like this, or start to aspire to be like this. As long as we keep telling ourselves that I am this thing, this world is what is, this world is real. I am male, I am female, I am this color, I am of that country. These are all wonderful varieties of spices of life and this and that and the other, but they are thing. What we've done shamefully, especially in the West, is that we've had being serve thing to such an extent that we've lost a lot of respect. And I feel very sad to see that the East is trying to follow the West in doing this materialism things. Not surprising then, to rebalance it, that people are saying, well, let's slow down and look back to being. What is the purpose of all this stuff? these things are nothing. They come and go like that. They serve being, whether we are intentionally realizing that or not, or deliberately have the idea that that is the case. But it is a thing that serves being. But being would be boring. It would be colorless and nothingness. Being would become nothingness if there was no thing with which to try to express itself. So, hence it is said in Buddhism and in the Eastern schools that not to be attached to being or non-being, thing or non-thing. They both exist, they both are obviousness. But it's to realize the seat of the soul, and that the self, I am, you are, we are one. Greater self, and of this greater self. And when we have that, then we can interact with these things and express through these things, and it doesn't seem as a burden, or a discontentment, or something in which we fear necessarily. Because the cause of all human stress certainly is whether knowingly or not, the attachment to temporary things. When we attach to something that passes, then we get frustrated and stressed. Because it's out of our control. Something that is not eternal is not in our control, and never was in our control. We can only interact with something for a short little period of time. We may enjoy a satisfaction, we may enjoy periodic gratification. And it's not to say that it's all bad. It's not to deny all these things. It's not to embrace it to the point where we forget being, putting thing above being, but we don't have to deny all things. But the real contentment and the real mastery over anything is to realize being and to try and be that being. Even in the William Shakespeare, what is the famous quote? To be or not to be, that is the question. Suppose so. What are we trying to be and what are we trying to not be? We get caught up on the mundane. We get so angry and sad and frustrated and disappointed. And even though we say the words, it goes through our mind and we don't grasp it, but let's try to remind ourselves. That which I'm worried about fretting over, is it lasting? Is it an eternal thing? Does it pass? We are expressions of the greater self, the highest self. And we are trying to do so as if in an incomplete way. And yet we are slowly, as if upon instant recognition, attain it, and then it is difficult to speak about, because it's just something that to be. We cannot act it. There's such a thing as acting into being and becoming something, but it's like, and that's what we are doing until we are there. But it's like, once there with that understanding, you just have a smile, a chuckle, and a nod, because there's nothing really more to say about it. You can't describe it. The full self is bliss, because it's like, putting it this way, when we have that awareness of real self, the deep, deep rooted self, that is immovable, ageless, deathless, colorless, thingless, when we realize we are that, and we certainly are, then it is bliss, because that is the untouchable, immovable thing. We spend our whole lives trying to grasp something. Can I not find one thing to make me happy? Can I not find a good job? Can I not find a good partner? Can I not find an aspiration? Or can I not find an endeavor that will give me satisfaction? It's going through a series of things. And then along the way we get attached to distractions. Yeah, I'm having fun. I'm in the mode of bliss and enjoyment. But if it was on a temporary thing, it was a passing vanity. The only real happiness is the supreme joining, or at least the beginning of the aspiration to join, with eternal isness. As long as we keep telling ourselves, you're you and I'm me, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, we're different, that's false identity. As long as we say one job is more important than another because one gives more money than another, or this, that, or the other, it's false identity. As long as we're spending our time, and you guys know all this, you are the Buddha, you are the Christ. We have to find our happiness, I guess, maybe I'll put it this way, that take away whatever, and it's an individual choice, take away whatever stops us from being that being, recognizing that being, even if wild as self. What stops us from recognizing that eternal being? That is the thing to take away. You can't go around expecting to find perfection by going to everybody and saying, you believe in my religion or you're damned. People do that all the time. They do it to me on my YouTube in comments and private messages and things. Maybe they do it to you, but wherever it may be. Control and convert thyself. Realize divine being. And then we can speak to each other with no words and with a smile, because we know we can't talk about it anyway. The universe is one, is no thing, and is an eternal dance between being and thing. Things will eternally come into being, but being is the only is, and that's the bliss. In parting words, I want to share this cute story. I had a good friend. I live in Gatineau now, so I'm not in Ottawa where I would find my old friends, but I had a friend named Roger from Montreal, and he was in Ottawa for a while. See, even this wasp. Look. I don't fear the wasp. He was in Montreal and came to Ottawa for a time. And he said that he was studying martial arts, kung fu and such. And kung fu is not just about violent martial arts and self-defense, it's also a way of life, basically. And he was talking about his old Chinese master, who had told him a lovely story about the recognizing of being versus the looking at things. And here's what he said. Two old friends hadn't seen each other in a long time, and they decided when they were old, at 80 years old, they would meet on their favorite hill that they used to meet when they were kids. And they would go to this hill, and they will see each other on such and such a day. So the old Bonhams did so. Hello, sweetheart. And they didn't say a word. They walked up the hill, each on their own side, and they had green tea. They didn't speak a word. And at the end of just sitting there for such and such amount of minutes, they said only a few parting words. It was nice to see you. And they smiled and bowed. They each walked their way. This is Buddha, this is Christ, this is the enlightenment. Like Christ said, when you are done your training, you'll be like the Master, and in those days, you will ask me nothing. Convert thyself. Recognize being. Interact with thing, let thing serve being, but being is not to serve thing. But we do the interaction dance. And find some contentment even while here, in a strange world. Namaste, just my thoughts for today. Blessings and love be with you. Cheers.